Hello everyone and welcome to another Digimon Ghost Game Quick Thoughts video. This time I'm going to be giving out my quick thoughts on the latest episode of Digimon Ghost Game, and that is episode 7, Birds, which I can only assume is kind of like a little bit of a reference to Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. And we kind of have like the murders of crows showing up and being kind of ominous, and that does remind me a little bit of The Birds. So that's kind of a cute little reference, and it's a reference to horror, so that's pretty cool. In any case, this week's episode saw our first case of a human working somewhat in collaboration with the Mon of the Week. This is something that I kind of thought would be more of a theme in Ghost Game, like what we saw in Cross Wars Young Hunters and in Atmon, where the Mon of the Week is kind of influencing an everyday human that maybe doesn't really necessarily know that Digimon exists. They kind of are just working alongside this unknown entity. We also got a new evolution. Now, the evolution was honestly, for some reason, somewhat surprisingly another one for Gammamon, and it was another chocolate-motivated one, which is kind of sticking to a theme there. The evolution sequence was more or less exactly like the evolution animation we had for Battle Gammamon, where it's just a bunch of lights and Hero's face close up and we see the Vital Bracelet. But that's fine. They're sticking with something that other seasons of Digimon have had more, where the evolution animations don't really change that much. And I guess I was kind of spoiled with, and this is me complimenting Digimon Adventure Colon, but Digimon Adventure Colon, which is the 2020 reboot of Digimon Adventure, it had more dynamic, more custom evolution sequences. Like they would be actually animating in the sky or whatever and flying or changing shape, and I thought that was pretty cool, except for Greymon and Garurumon, who weirdly were the only ones who got stock footage animation sequences. But in any case, it was nice seeing a different evolution rather than just using Battle Gammamon again, and it was Chaos Gammamon, so that's kind of cool. And I did like how they were kind of flying around to do the fight, and it was a pretty cool animated sequence for the fight as well as seeing just a new Digimon. That was nice. However, I did think that Chaos Gammamon does look a little bit like XVmon and a Sugar Glider having a child. And I honestly really hope we start seeing the other Digimon evolve soon, but at this point I'm wondering if we're going to have all of Gammamon's evolutions first, before we see Tesla, Jellymon, and Simbara and Goromon. But I could be wrong, but I'm just saying that seems to be the way we're going, and then we'll do the other evolutions once we see all of the Gammamon evolutions that we get in the opening credits. However, I did enjoy the fact that the evolution occurred because it fit the battle. It shows that evolutions can split off and be different depending on what the situation calls for, and I much rather prefer that than finding a plot device that splits evolutions, like we had the Miasma in the Adventure reboot, where they could have sort of like these upgrade forms that were between Perfect and Mega. And then, of course, we have in 02, they have the armor eggs. So these evolutions, instead of using like Digimentals or any kind of like plot device, it just was the situation that called for it. And that's kind of cool. I like when we're not forcing plot devices. It's just kind of how they evolve. And they're like, I need to fly. So he's evolving into a Sugar Glider baby with XVmon. Something like that. Anyway, I kind of like that. I like that they sort of gave a reason for why the evolution had to be different, and it was because he needed to fly this time. We also had a character introduced, and this is the character that's working alongside the Mon of the Week, called Daigo, who I'm fairly certain was unnamed in the episode. The reason I call him Daigo is because in the episode guide listing for episode 7, they say a young man named Daigo. And first of all, he doesn't look young at all. He's got this weird kind of look to him, and honestly I thought that this would be a disguise because his beard just doesn't look right. He looks like he's wearing like fake makeup to make him look like he's got wrinkles. It was kind of unusual there, but the episode guide listing did say that it was a young man named Daigo, and I don't think he's a young man, and we didn't even get to know his name. So I don't think we actually got his name in this episode, but maybe I'm missing out on it. I just don't think he actually had any conversation with anybody who wasn't the bird, and the bird didn't actually talk. We had a more or less non-verbal Mon of the Week who just kind of was there. In my predictions, I thought that maybe Daigo's motivation would be like Peter, how he's angry at the fact that people have animals in cages and he wants to stop that. But we never actually, we kind of just had him as someone with birds in cages, and then the Gammamon, the Mon of the Week, released those birds, and he's like motivated by this. He's like, oh, this is beautiful, I love birds so much, and that's basically all we know about his motivation, is that he really likes birds. So that's the thing. And Gammamon motivation that I predicted was being another misunderstanding, which is another one that would be needed to be talked out with Hiro. However, the battle just kind of ended suddenly and didn't really go anywhere. Gammamon kind of just flew off into the sunset with the birds, and then all the birds that were kind of kidnapped or liberated, I don't know, were returned to their owners. But that's sort of how it ended, very anticlimactically. They spent a lot of time at the start of the episode trying to solve the mystery, which was actually pretty interesting. I really enjoyed seeing them try to solve the mystery of what was going on and kind of being like sleuths. I really enjoyed that take, rather than just they stumble upon the Mon of the Week, do a battle, and then they talk to it and calm it down or something. It didn't end that way. However, it did end very suddenly, and that was a bit weird that Gammamon just sort of left. The battle didn't really end, he just kind of buggered off. And in fact, Angoramon actually is the one that explains Gammamon motivation as being a caged bird that not that he is a caged bird, but how caged birds want to be free, and a wild bird wants friends and is lonely. Which more or less came off as in Angoramon is explaining Gammamon feelings, despite Gammamon never actually saying this, because this is kind of, he doesn't talk. And then meanwhile, Daigo kind of just is there and nobody ever talks to him again. He kind of is just like, oh no, the birds are leaving. And that's it. We don't get anything else from Daigo, at least in this episode. And judging by the prediction, he's just a human of the week. So it's a little bit different to what I thought, but I don't think it's bad. I think it's definitely better than last episode, and it's nice that we didn't have the same formula of just misunderstandings solved by talking. But at the same time, it felt like it was a misunderstanding, but it just wasn't talked out, and we didn't actually get to hear what the misunderstanding was, other than Angoramon saying about how caged birds want to be free, and free birds want friends and are lonely, which, I don't know. I feel like Angoramon definitely just assumed and pulled that out of nowhere. But in any case, those are my quick thoughts on episode 7. I'll be kind of recording the podcast a little bit differently this week because I was really sick today, but stay tuned for that anyway because we do have an episode planned, so that'll be coming out in like 24 hours publicly. But in any case, what were your thoughts about episode 7, Birds? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye!